Go blue, everyone. Michigan escapes the Minnesota Golden Gophers. What have we learned? Recruiting news and the Washington preview with Lars Hanson from Locked On Huskies next on Michigan Wolverines Live.
You guys should check out the Michigan Wolverine Live. They're out here doing great things, doing great podcasts, great live shows. They're really just doing their thing, help them blow up.
And welcome back to another episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. That's right, folks. It is the 168th episode of our show. And I want to thank everybody for coming in today. My name is John D'Adamo, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour and a half or so of great content coming at you. Today is Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. And we're coming to you from YouTube, Twitch, X, Twitter, Twix, also audio podcast for your commute. So if you want to listen into the show or your friends want to listen into the show, you can check out Spotify, Audible, Amazon, and Apple Podcast. Of course, we want to encourage everyone to hit that like button. It just takes a second, folks, to hit that like button. And the best part about that is that it's absolutely, completely free. To hit that like button, as well as subscribe, share with a friend, and of course, we will be encouraging everybody in just a bit here to subscribe in another way when we'll reveal that, but also super chat. So if you want your comment or question to be read, we have a lot of things to hit today. We're probably not going to get to regular comments unless you super chat or you're YouTube member. Those are the comments we're going to highlight. So we do want to do that. And the last thing before I bring on TJ is we do want to wish our moderator, Jackson Johnson, who does so much for this network. It's his birthday week. It was his birthday yesterday. So I want to give Jackson Johnson a happy birthday week. And with that said, to help us talk through the Kenneth Grant tracker, it's my partner in crime, TJ in the house.
What's up, John? And I'm mad at Jackson for not telling me it was his birthday. I'm pretty sure I called him yesterday and I had no idea. So shout out to Jackson. Happy birthday, my friend. And we are here, baby. Another victory week. We got the little brown jug. Wasn't the prettiest victory as we discussed on the postgame show, but we do not apologize for victory. So we got it, John. Another packed, jammed show. We got some recruiting. We got some, I got a hot take on Alex Orji. I want to give it to everybody. And obviously we're going to break down this coming opponent. So looking forward to it.
I am too. And we do want to just encourage everybody, obviously, to hit the subscribe and ask you, what are you doing to beat Ohio State today? Well, Ohio got a little bit of an extra nudge here, thanks to a certain video that I will not mention. But now they're back up. It's back up to 400, folks. Tell everybody you know who's a Michigan fan about this channel, about what we're bringing to the table, because I know everybody here wants Kenneth Grant to catch up to third base Ryan Day.
Yeah. Well, first thing first, Juju, be nice. Second thing, so Ohio State had a video that was very successful, like over 14,000 views. They gained like 60, 70 subscribers. So they got they expanded the gap on us, but it doesn't matter. We'll take it on the chin. We're just going to come back a little harder, and we'll get the dub. We just got to keep working. Kenneth Grant will not be denied. So help us out. If you have not subscribed to the channel, give us a subscribe, like the video, share the video. We greatly appreciate it. We will catch Ohio State. Let Ryan Day know.
And with that said, we do already have a membership. So thanks to Detective Loki, who is our weekly Oprah gifting memberships to people. And today, he Loki has been gifted again. And so he Loki gets 30 free days of Those Who Stay Will Be Champions membership. So congrats to he Loki, and thanks to Detective Loki for gifting that. Really appreciate that and spreading the love.
Absolutely. Thank you, Detective Loki.
Okay. So what have we learned, TJ? Michigan barely escapes a game that we all, including the guy who was the Minnesota guy, predicted a multiple touchdown victory for Michigan. Michigan barely squeaks by Minnesota at home. There were people out. There were injuries. But let's face it, there were some problems. So why don't we start with the offense? And I'm gonna direct to Sharon Moore's own comments about the Alex Orji Davis Warren hot topic all over the message boards, all over the socials. Sharon Moore gave a statement, and there's some coach speak with this. We know this, but he pointed out, and I agree, that Alex Orji has improved in looking at his progressions. There were multiple times where I was watching Alex Orji look around, go to his first read, wasn't there, went to his second read. Even that interception, I'm pretty sure Donovan Edwards on the wheel route was probably read one. I might be wrong on that, but I would say they wouldn't scheme Donovan Edwards in that position and run that route if that wasn't supposed to be the first read. Could be wrong, but what did you what's kind of your take on what you've seen and some of the commentary about Alex Orji? Love to hear this.
Okay, so was there improvement from his first start to his second start? Absolutely. There's no doubt. Alex Orji, we saw Alex Orji take a step in the right direction, and what I mean, we saw him begin to try and develop some pocket presence. We saw him try to go through his progressions, even though our offensive line did not make his day easy. We saw the offense, I would say, especially the first half, be more tailored to Alex Orji as it should be. So there was some positives. And then the second half, we all saw what happened. Minnesota really figured out our game plan. But here's what I want to share. This is something that has been bothering me since Saturday. The Alex Orji to Jalen Milroe comparison is done. They are not the same. They are not even in the same realm. Alex Orji is not Jalen Milroe and will never be Jalen Milroe. He is not as fast as Jalen Milroe. He is not nearly the thrower that Jalen Milroe is. Jalen Milroe is at a 70% completion percentage. I do not personally feel Alex Orji has the capability to get to 75%. And then on top of that, just watching the difference between the running, they are not the same. Alex Orji, and we expressed this on the Saturday show, is very underwhelming in his running ability. I anticipated him to be better than he is. Looking at what we saw last
yards
year.
per carry.
Yeah, it's not to the level that I was hoping for. And I know there's a lot of fans who feel the same way. There may be some fans watching us now who are frustrated with my take here. But I just would like to say we have got to completely end the Milroe, Alex Orji comparisons. Those are done. So on this show, you will not ever hear that again. And if someone does bring that up, we will correct them because they are not in the same realm. But outside of that, so let's focus on our team. Look, the good news is they do appear to be taking steps in the right direction. The defense is improving. I know we're talking about offense, so we'll stick on offense, but the second half was inexcusable. And let's just hope that the team and the coaches get it more dialed in. I hope that, to Sharon Moore's comments about improving the playbook, and it's comments like that actually frustrate the hell out of me, because it's like, okay, well, what were we doing? What were we doing? And then, John, we talked about how Sharon Moore has decided he's going to take a different approach to practice, which we're hoping that means we're not going to push past mistakes like that has been rumored, because you could see a very undisciplined, sloppy team at times, which shows to me truth in that rumor that maybe they were pushing past mistakes. I will say what I did appreciate about Sharon Moore was saying he was not satisfied with the victory. That is what I want out of him. Do not lie to us. Do not tell us these things to sugarcoat let it be real. Just, hey, we got the dub, but we got things to work on. Just call it like it is, Sharon. And if you can just walk that path, I think the fan base would be a lot happier for it. But I will say, again, it's only Alex Orji's second start. Even though I was very critical of what I just said about Alex Orji, I do believe Alex Orji can improve week to week. I do believe the Alex Orji we see today is not his ceiling. So I think there's more room for Alex Orji to grow. And I do think this too. I'll say this. I think it's potentially possible that Alex Orji can lead Michigan to the playoffs. But he must get a little better than he is now. He has to get a little better. And here's what was good too, John, and I know I'm running here. His short to intermediate passing was definitely showcased better than it was before. Now, granted, he was only at a 55% clip, but he showed the capability, which if we watch the first few games of the season, it looked like the coaches were scared to death to even try that, right? There was a real hesitancy by the coaching staff to drop any plays for anything. So I would say we're in the right direction, but there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Look, I definitely had a statement out there that says I stand by Alex Orji, and I do stand by Alex Orji. I also don't think he's anywhere close to where Milroe is. Milroe, though, if we do remember, I mean, the one thing I will say is that we look at Milroe with a bit crimson-colored glasses because now he's killing it, right?
Oh, he's crushing it.
Back in the day, he got benched. He got benched for Tyler Buckner and Simpson. So, like, you know, look, they all go through their rough patches. CJ Stroud had rough patches, but Alex Orji, I think, is even with all that said, I think he's a game manager. But I think there's a larger issue that we just need to call out right now, which is the wide receivers.
Oh, it's a problem.
So when you look at the comparison here, Minnesota, this is the Golden Gophers, 2-3. They had 258 passing yards. Michigan had 86, and half of them came from a tight end. It's unacceptable. Right. I don't know what they're doing in practice. I don't know what the emphasis is. Fire Ron Bellamy if he doesn't fix this next. Like, if I don't see marked improvement in the wide receiver productivity and specifically in the fundamentals, right, of route running, of getting a little bit of separation, like this is not 2023 Washington. There should be opportunities to get separation at times. I'm not saying all the time, but at times. We've got to see some improvement here.
Well, you know what I know? I know Donovan Edwards is a far better receiver than we've seen. I know that. So that's up to the coaches to scheme him accordingly. Let him run routes and not just wheel routes or screens. He has the ability to do slants and crossing routes and use him as a weapon. You know, there's no reason why they're not utilizing him. There's no reason, in my opinion, why are you running Peyton O'Leary and CJ Charleston and not Marlon Klein at the X position? Marlon Klein runs a 10-800 meter. He has enough speed. There are wide receivers running 11-1, 11-2 who actually are quite productive in college football. He has the speed to be in the X position for at least, I would say, 30 to 40% of the snaps. Or why not put Colson Loveland more in that position and have Hogan Hanson be your inline tight end? There are ways that we could utilize these weapons that we have, and we are not. And he's right. That's true. I will say that CJ Charleston is a good run blocker. But you don't think Marlon Klein can run block? I think he can. I think Kirk Campbell needs to step it up. Like, on top of the wide receivers being an issue around Bellamy, the coaching staff in itself has been a very underwhelming. Another underwhelming aspect of this team. Although I know we're 4-1. We still have everything in front of us, which is fantastic. But I think what we all do know, I think majority of the fan base agrees with what I'm going to say here. We are well aware that our margin of error is so small. We cannot afford not our A game defensively or even a B+ game, especially when that was against Minnesota and we almost blew it. You face a higher caliber opponent. You cannot afford the defense to lapse. So like a USC, for example, no margin of error. That required a Will Johnson pick 6 for us to get the victory there, right? So the team really has to in my opinion, play in a more optimal level defensively to even give our offense a chance to be on a competitive level with some of these other teams. And the offense has to step up. And this is on the coaching staff. It's on the wide receivers. Our offensive line, I will say, I have seen improvement. I think time on task, reps, but I mean, there's still issues. Evan Link is still an issue. I kind of would
Percy
love to see
did good
Percy.
at LT. I like Percy at LT. I thought he blocked well. He didn't get cooked a lot. I thought he stood in there and subbed for Miles Hinton pretty well.
I would like to see Miles Hinton's continue to be left tackle and we move Percy to right tackle. I think that's our strongest 5 right now. But man, they are committed to Evan Link. They are committed. So we'll see.
Yeah, clearly, State Street MVP. He must be, because as we call being good in practice, State Street MVP.
Regarding Cabana, I'm pretty sure I heard he was hurt.
Oh, okay.
So I can't say I'm 100% for sure on that, but I think him and Capana are both dealing with something right now. I believe that's to be true.
And before we move on from offense, Johnny Olden Jr., who's a friend of the program and also YouTube member.
Yes, sir.
Kirk Campbell has to keep cooking on offense, can't afford to get ultra conservative.
And they did in the second half.
Yeah. First half, loved it. The first half was like everything I dreamed when it comes to Donovan Edwards getting out. Like, we kept crying for 2 running backs in the backfield. Like, we kept crying for.
Yep.
Like, those things happen. Absolutely. And I would like them to happen more. Orgy made a bad, obviously, interception where Donovan Edwards was open. We've pointed that out already. But at least, like, Kirk Campbell is starting to mix it up. It's still Minnesota, so you can't unveil everything you have. But at least there was improvement. I hope to see some additional stuff that we haven't quite seen yet against Washington coming up. Just to let us know that they exist. Let us know that some of these wrinkles exist without going into too much detail.
I don't think, I'll be honest, I don't think they were holding back anything in that second half. I think they were honestly just limited by personnel. We have, like one of the things we talked about on the post-game show on Saturday was the adjustments. We lost the adjustment battle. Minnesota made better adjustments than we did. And I said, defensively, yes, we can do that. We can make better adjustments. And they gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter, right? But offensively, what adjustments are to be had? Because we are so limited and we are so one-dimensional offensively. You can't really adjust. You can't counter. We have one approach right now. The only thing I can think of that we could do, given our personnel, is just get creative with the weapons we have.
Yeah.
Use Donovan Edwards accordingly. Use Colson Loveland accordingly. And then see if we can get a wide receiver to step up. Somebody. Anybody.
Well, look, I mean, Tyler Morris, he can turn on the Jets. I'd like to maybe see them try a reverse with him or some type of, get him involved. If they can't throw to him, let's at least get him in. Like, let's get the speed of some of these players more. Like Donovan Edwards, same thing. You could put him in various like gadget plays or in the slot more. You could have Donovan Edwards throw the ball. I mean, that's something we like to do against Ohio, right? Against Oregon.
Well, I'll say this. So some brighter on a brighter side here. There are guys coming back for next game that are going to be healthy. Yes. A lot of the guys who set out, Samaj Morgan, Will Johnson. Oh, great. I didn't even, John, my apologies, sir. So Will Johnson, Josiah Stewart, Samaj Morgan. They're all looking good. So shout out to John here for having this. I didn't know this was coming, guys. So that's great news. John's on top of it, like always. So again, man, I mean, I think and I want to just stress this too. I know we're going to talk about defense here, and maybe if you want to transition to defense, we can. Defensively, John, I think the reason why we gave up those 21 points is because we were really missing Josiah Stewart and Will Johnson. I think if Will Johnson and Josiah Stewart are on that field, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Steven's super chat here segues it perfectly, right? Thank you for the 5. Thank you for your YouTube membership also. We need to stop letting teams get back into the second half when we have good leads. And this, to your point, this was on the defense quite a bit because so Will Johnson locks up half the field. He's so good. He's probably going to go top 3 in the draft. He's going to go really high. Next to Shador, next to a couple others, he's going to go really high because he locks out half the field. He really does, especially against the weaker, the opponents that aren't the Ohios, who aren't the Texases. But he's a problem for anybody to go against, even Marvin Harrison Jr. So having him back is so critical. But I'm wondering if just some of the personnel they put in, they were just not quite getting it done. Maybe just let their foot off the gas a little bit because it's Minnesota. Get a little bit of letting it off the gas. I don't know. I didn't love what I saw there, even with the players out. I think they could have been a little bit more on it, I think, and stopped some of those touchdowns.
I think all right. So I think we actually have a lot of encouragement on the defensive side of the ball. I think Jair Hill's starting to find his game. I think Brandon Hillman is starting to. I think he's going to push for Quentin Johnson's job. I think Zeke Berry's looking like a dog. I think Hausman's starting to find his game.
Yeah,
I think
Zeke was killing it. I really liked what he saw.
Yeah, I think the big issue was when Josiah Stewart was out, the lack of pass rush. Derek Moore, didn't even hear his name. Now, I know people thought TJ Guy played really well, but I was not one of them. I thought actually TJ Guy left a lot to be desired out there. I think TJ Guy has a lot of potential, though. Don't get me wrong. Like, this isn't me saying he's not a good player. This is a player, I think, getting a feel for the game and the speed of the game and the physicality of the game. I think he has a lot of potential. I'm not giving up on TJ Guy at all. I'm actually very excited about TJ Guy, but I did not think he excelled or caused a lot of pressure or havoc. I think we just need a little more there. I mean, I was actually surprised at the, again, lack of pressure. USC, we got tons of pressure. But again, Josiah Stewart had 2 sacks that game, right?
Right.
So I would like to see.
For us, the pressure came and the sacks came with the interior D line.
Yeah, for sure. And there wasn't, it wasn't consistent pressure for Michigan. I think that hurt us. And then, let's not sugarcoat it either. Wink Martindale made some pretty bozo play calls on some of those plays there. So, but Wink has improved too. I'll say that too. So Wink has looked better from the beginning of the year. So again, it's just a work in progress, man. The whole team. I mean, the good news is, and I know there's, we got fans watching the show. We're 4-1. Like, everything is still in front of us. I feel good about Washington. I know we're going to talk more about Washington, so we'll go into it with our guest. But the team has a lot to play for right now, and there's no reason why they can't get better. They will get better. I do believe that.
I'm with you there. We do, of course, have Detective Loki already gifted a membership today, but now stepping up with a $5 super chat. Who do you guys trust the most? Davis Warren against an NFL secondary, Orgy against an elite defensive line, or Tuttle against a slight elbow sprain? Oh, man. I wish Tuttle was. Is Tuttle healthy now? I've heard Tuttle might be healthy now.
So I have heard that he's getting very, very close to returning. He was taking warmups last game, but I've gotten some confirmation that soon. Now, what is soon? I don't know. I've been told soon. So I actually think after the bye week. So I've thought about it after I received that word. I think after the bye week, you could maybe see. I'll tell you this. If Tuttle's 100% healthy, I think we're going to see some Tuttle experiment. I think Sharon Moore is going to bring him in from time to time, like you saw with Davis Warren. And I think you might see a little competition brewing. We'll see. That is speculation on my part. I don't know if that to be fact or anything. I just feel that Tuttle's going to get some run here once he's healthy. We'll see. But regarding Detective Loki's $5 super chat, thank you, Detective Loki. My option is jump off a cliff. That's I'm going to do option D because I don't like any of those options.
Yeah. Johnny with the sarcastic comment here, which is definitely how I'm feeling with all of these so-called football experts saying saying Davis Warren needs to get back in as starter. Look, I mean, we don't want to rip on players too much, but yeah, I think Dependent Fanatics got it. We got continue Alex Orji's development, make him get him comfortable, get him to 150 pass yards would be so great.
Dude, our community is hilarious. Juju over here at Walmart, Iowa. I mean, it's a work in progress, guys. All right, it's a work in progress. Work in progress.
And we'll point out the good and the bad as we see it.
Freaking Johnny.
And
Johnny and Juju just roasting our comments right now.
Yeah, be good to each other, everybody. So quick reminder, you see a lot of people with these badges. You see the emojis. Throw out the emojis if you got them. You can join the YouTube membership, at the Michigan Football, the Voice College Football, as low as $2.99. And you get priority, you get the emojis, you get the badge. And then as you rise up the ranks, there's more to offer, and you're supporting us more. And so any level you want to do it's very great. There's also the option to gift people memberships. So if you've got a little extra in the couch cushions, you can gift memberships. And you can gift 1 membership, or you could gift 5 if you really want to go nuts. And then people will really like you if you gift 5, because then they all get 30 free days of the tier 2 of those who stay will be champions. So consider doing that. The link's in the chat to do it. Go ahead and make that happen. Before we get to recruiting, there is one final point I want to bring back, which is the practice changes that Sharon Moore alluded to. He didn't go into detail, but he said in the press conference yesterday, we're going, it's on me, and we are going to change up practice. Does this mean the team will run plays more until they get them right, instead of the lunacy, the madness that I heard from UTJ and from the insiders, which said they weren't doing that? Could this be, could what Sharon Moore said yesterday be an allusion to this? I hope so.
I think there's some accountability going on and some self-reflection Sharon's doing. And I think, and I'll be honest, I like the approach right now. I like the comments I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. I hope so. I cannot imagine you play as sloppy as you're playing, and you continue down the approach they were taking. And for those who don't know, we've received word that Michigan was going through their practice script, and when the team would make mistakes, they would continue moving forward instead of getting it right like Jim Harbaugh used to do. Jim Harbaugh used to make the boys keep redoing the play until they got it down. Well, Sharon Moore was moving through the practice script, even if it wasn't, even if they didn't effectively do the play. And listen, if you look on the field, you can kind of see that. It looks like a team who has not gotten this down. They lacked fundamentals in a lot of areas. They looked sloppy. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I hope Sharon takes a more stern stance on practice. And I know he does. I know you can just tell from his comments. He's having the players be more accountable. He's looking in the mirror. It looks like he's looking in the mirror. I think he's making good adjustments. We'll see. We'll see how Washington comes. Again, though, I will say I did see first half Minnesota. I saw an improved team.
Agreed.
Second half Minnesota, I saw a team who was exhausted, which could be the Coach Herbert factor. Also a lack of depth. And then a team that was playing very sloppy and unfundamentally sound, and also a team who did not adapt to the changes that Minnesota made, because I think we're very one-dimensional offensively.
Yup. You said it exactly the way I'm thinking. Yeah, it really was that tale of two halves. So I'm hoping that Michigan can put together a full game instead of half of a game against Washington, and the rematch of the national championship matchup. Albeit both teams with different coaches than they had in the national championship matchup. Couple of quick housekeeping things. we do want to remind everybody that if you have a product, a service, a business, or a personal brand, you can sponsor Michigan football, the voice of college football. If you noticed, we have now a regular Saturday sponsor, the Win Agency, through the rest of the season. But this show, the Thursday show, it's all up for grabs. Like, go ahead and hit up MarkRogersTV at Gmail or us. That's cool too. And let us know if you're interested in sponsoring and having your brand and or product or service or personal brand emphasized, and we can help you grow your business. Also, we do want to remind everybody that there is the Voice of College Football Network Twix account that TJ and company have been doing a lot of work on. Birthday boy Jackson Johnson, also a big part of this. And the first comment that you'll see is the very exciting news that Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, has a book coming out October 29th. It's called Disputed National Champions. The Amazon link for it is officially live, so go ahead and get your copy now. It's $9.99 hardcover and 99 cents on Kindle. What a deal. 99 cents. Come on.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Good read. Yeah, I started looking at the book a little bit. It's pretty interesting. As we know, Mark Rogers is I don't want to say a true college football historian, but the guy knows college football, right? So he put a lot of time into that book. The cover looks amazing, by the way. That cover's fire. So yes, if you can support Mark Rogers, support the Voice of College Football Network, we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes, and Steven, let me know which level you are at, and I will add your name right away. Yeah, I have to redo this entire thing. So definitely help us out there. Let us know which tier, and then I will add your name right away. Okay, so we've got some recruiting updates for you on these three. We've been talking about these three a little bit, and obviously in the shadow of the Alabama, like I'd say one of the top 10 games that I've watched the last decade. It was so good. Alabama, Georgia. I love this whole realignment in this one aspect, that you get these really interesting matchups during the season when normally you don't see them till the playoff. But the reason I say that is Andrew Olish and Ivan Taylor were there. And so I know that you've got updates on all three of these guys, Brady Hart, and the others.
Absolutely. So as we know, if anyone watched that game, that was an amazing game to watch. Probably to be a recruit at that game would probably be pretty impactful. But good news. So Andrew Olish and Ivan Taylor did go down to the Alabama-Georgia game. Alabama's doing their best to get these guys to flip to them. Word out of Alabama is that Andrew Olish actually looks to be very, very difficult to flip. The Alabama insiders feel that Andrew Olish if they are going to flip him, it's going to be a very tough task. They think he is very strong in his commitment to Michigan. That's the word out of Alabama, and that's amazing. I mean, considering the way things are kind of trending offensively for Michigan, and the fact that Alabama's looking as dangerous as they are offensively and as good as they are, and that was an amazing game. The fact that they came out of that weekend and they feel that way about Andrew Olish is great news, because Andrew Olish is a impact dynamic player. We're talking will be an NFL player one day. So excellent news on him. Ivan Taylor, the other player we will hit on, very interesting also. So word is out of the weekend that Ivan Taylor wasn't very vocal. He was kind of, he's kind of kept to himself. He was just really in observation mode, it appears. But the good news coming out of that weekend is he already rescheduled his next visit to Michigan, which is going to be the Michigan State game. So he's already looking to come back to Michigan. So that's fantastic news, because one of the things that happens sometimes when you get a commit, or when you have a kid in your class and he goes to another school for a visit, they sometimes can shut things down for the school they're committed to and not come back and not give the school an opportunity to respond or counter. And they are fully allowing Michigan to be in this. Like, they are not shutting Michigan out. This is fantastic news, especially because there's been some speculation that Ivan Taylor has a wandering eye a little bit because the way things are kind of trending with Michigan. Because there's been some parents who, Andrew Olish's parents for one, who have been kind of open about some of the concern level with the team right now. So things like that. There are recruits who look at the current state of the program in terms of the way it's playing and things like that, where like questions are arising to some of them, and but it's also good that even after a weekend like that, that both Ivan Taylor and Andrew Olish still look to be in good standing with Michigan and committed. So I'm really excited and really happy to hear that news. I was kind of anticipating not as positive outcome, especially Ivan Taylor. But the good news is Ivan Taylor wants to come back from the Michigan State game, so we'll be on that. That's a great, top 100 safety. I think he's ranked number 4 in the nation in terms of safeties. So excellent. And then the other major recruit that was on Michigan's campus for the Minnesota game was Brady Hart. This is QB1 for 2026. This is, in my opinion, the best news out of all of it. He has reconfirmed and put any doubt out there that he is not interested in Michigan or he's not going to be a part of. Brady Hart is 100% locked in after this weekend. He wants to be a part of Michigan. He wants to be the solution. He wants to help build the class. He wants to be a part of this program. It's ideal. And if anyone has looked at what Brady Hart's doing in high school ball right now, he's playing at an extremely elite level. He's averaging like 350 yards a game. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head his touchdown interception ratio, but it's very good. Yeah. So fantastic. So great news there. Brady Hart is going to definitely be our QB1 for 2026, which is huge to have that. I'm getting JJ vibes in the sense of just mentality, demeanor. He wants to be a leader. He wants to build a class. He wants to be a part of something at Michigan that is long-term and sustainable. So that's great to see. So that's all great news. And then we have a couple more, John.
Yeah, and that's all great. And what really stuck out to me about that, I remember you and I were texting during the Alabama game, and I said, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
Olesh, Taylor, at least one of them might be watching this and are like, "Hey, I want a piece." So I'm very happy to hear that, despite the fact that they went, they're. I mean, some of these kids, they get paid or they're getting free trips. They're enjoying the recruiting perks, and I think they should, especially these top tier players. Might as well enjoy your free visits while you can.
Possibly paid. I don't know that these things happen in recruiting. Sometimes players will get money to come visit. I'm not saying this is the case. I have not had that confirmed, but I do know schools in the SEC play ball. It's possible that that could be a reason, but it's also possible that it's not. I have nothing to confirm that to be true. And then our boy here, Zach Spain, said, "Don't forget about the big wide receiver that Michigan's trying to flip for North Carolina. Don't you worry."
Yes, we're about to get there.
Not. Yeah, we will get there.
Yes, real quick before we do that, Ramez did throw us a 2. So no design orgy runs to keep healthy coming soon. So maybe they're taking that JJ McCarthy approach where they didn't call a lot of design runs for him to keep him healthy. And Sharon Moore even said, he admitted it in the conference on Monday that they were doing that. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I'll say what I would like to see Orji do is slide a little bit. I'd like to see him protect his body. The way he plays concerns me long term. He's a big boy, 235, 6'4". I mean, he's built like a linebacker, but ask Cam Newton, ask any quarterback who plays that style, that physical power running style that those types of quarterbacks play. It'll catch up to you, so let's hope Orji just plays smarter. And we'll see, man. I'm hoping we see another step against Washington for Orji.
Absolutely. So thanks, Ramez, for the super chat. And let's get to it. Wide receiver interest, a decommit, and a potential flip target, TJ.
Yes. So let's do LeBron Hill first. So LeBron Hill is just decommitted from Purdue on the 30th of September. This is a wide receiver I would recommend being aware of because it appears the coaching staff is very interested. Sharon Moore is very interested in LeBron Hill. Now, and so he's ranked in the 900s. And he's a 6'4" wide receiver. He's an X type. In my opinion, though, we don't sugarcoat. We keep it very honest. This is a player that I would categorize as we are filling the class. This is a fill the class type of player, a project, raw. I am not as high on this player personally. His highlight tape.
Keegan is.
There we go. His highlight tape's like a minute 7 seconds, and like it's just I don't know. To me, I'm not wowed. I'm not. This isn't. This isn't one of those players where I'm over the moon. This is essentially, in my opinion, they are trying to fill the class, and and I told John this behind the scenes. They're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Now that's not entirely true. There are kids ranked way lower than a top 1,000 commit. That's Jamar. We're not there yet, John. But
yeah, I was getting it ready. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So that's where we are with LeBron Hill. Decommitted. There seems to be a lot of interest from Michigan. Sharon Moore has been in conversations with him. We'll see where it goes. We'll see. Now the next one here, as our boy in the comments mentioned earlier, Jamar Browder. So this is another X-type wide receiver. He is currently committed to North Carolina, and there seems to be a lot of smoke that he is trending to Michigan. Now, I am higher on Jamar Browden. I think Jamar Browder is better than LeBron Hill. Okay, like that is not to be debated. But even so, I'm still not like I am looking for a higher, me personally, this is me. So obviously, everyone has their approach to what they like to see in commits and prospects and all that. I would like to see a higher caliber athlete brought to Michigan. This type of player to me looks like a 3-year project who could potentially make a production or make a contribution in his junior year. And then I don't foresee him being a player who is, I wouldn't categorize as dynamic or, to me, I will say this though. Let me just say it. So watching his hands though, he snatches the ball. So like his way he catches, his hand catching is crazy. But to me, his speed is a question. His release is a question to me. His acceleration is a question for me. The fact that he has a highlight tape that's only a minute 27,
that's a question.
So if you play your entire season and your highlight tape is a minute and 27 seconds, you're not, so
yeah,
you're not killing it, and so for me, I'm not as high on these two, but Michigan's trying to land them. I do know they want to get 4 wide receivers in the class. We will see. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see if Sharon and Co are able to land them. But those are 2 players that I'm not as high on. But the recruiting segment or the recruiting topic with Olish, Taylor, and Hart, that's something to be excited about. Michigan's definitely going to keep working. They're not done. We'll see what they can do.
Absolutely. Speaking of keeping working and they're not done, how about Stephen Powers with the $5? Also a member of the Those Who Stay Will Be Champions. And I made sure your name now appears here in the ticker. Apologies about that. But I heard Brady Hart might reclassify to the 2025 class. I haven't heard that yet. That's very interesting if that happens.
So I've heard it in, it's like message board talk has discussed these things, but I think it's more in jest. I think it's more in jest. I don't think it's a serious consideration. I've not heard anything on a credible level that this would happen. This is more hoping and wishing by the fan base because, I feel that if he did reclassify to 2025, no, I don't think he would start as a freshman, but I do think, it'd be best for Michigan if that were the case, right? It would get him on the field quicker. I mean, I don't think he'd start as a freshman though. I think our answer for quarterback next year is in the portal. We'll see. There's no names yet on that. Hopefully Michigan's taking care of business and having some dinners with Mr. Portnoy. But so we'll see. But no, I have not heard anything credible of that. I have seen some rumors in message boards that I don't take too credible.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely Mr. Portnoy with his $1 to $3 million offer. Let's hope that can happen and they can really go for a heavy hitter to at least compete with Jaden Davis and some of the others. Bring in, they Jim Harbaugh always used to say iron sharpens iron, and competition is a good thing. So let's do it.
They need to go after a legit quarterback, a legit game changer at quarterback. They need to go very aggressive for quarterback and then let Jaden Davis compete with him. And if Jaden Davis cannot surpass him, that is what it is. Like this is power. This is, Power 4 football. This is the Big 2, Super 2. Like you have got to have an elite quarterback these days if you want to be a contender year in, year out. So it's on Michigan to make sure they supply the resources there.
Absolutely. And last thing before we bring on our Washington guest, Detective Loki with another membership gift. And I can't think of anyone more deserving to get a membership gift and give him 30 free days than our buddy Moose, who is now back on as a Those Who Stay Will Be Champions member, moderator, been there for us for a lot of time, and we appreciate everything he's done. And thank you, Detective Loki, for that. And not going to a Buckeye on this one. You got a dyed in the wool maize and blue guy with Moose there. All right. Without further ado, it's time to talk the Washington Huskies. And I could think of no one better. I've admired this guy's work from afar, and I'm excited that he's on. Lars Hanson from Locked On Huskies. Lars, thanks so much for coming on to Michigan Live.
No worries. Thanks for having me on, John. And I could think of about 4 or 5 other people that I would tab in for myself, but I appreciate the praise. And obviously, I will say I'll answer your question. I think there's a quarterback in Nevada, in the state of Nevada, that might interest you guys in about 5 or 6 months here. So
the UNLV quarterback?
Just a hunch. He might be available, and I think if you have $1 million, you got 900,000 still to play with after that. So
there you go. We'll let Portnoy know. We'll let him know.
I will say I did actually when I came out to Ann Arbor before we get going. Beautiful campus, beautiful stadium, beautiful setup. Parking I could do without, but I did get to meet Prez right outside the stadium when he was doing the barstool kind of hangout. His wife or fiance at the time had to, and he was great about it. He was more approachable than I thought he would be. So Prez is a good guy. Shout out to Dave.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly what Michigan needs. Michigan needs people like Dave Portnoy, but like 6 more of them to step up and like there are Michigan alumni with a lot of freaking money. Okay. It's not just Dave Portnoy, but Dave Portnoy stepped up, and I'm hoping that's the cavalry call for all of them to start stepping up. Yeah, bring their $1 to $3 million in, and let's go after a really legit quarterback in the portal. I think that's and a legit wide receiver target as well, because even if Andrew Marsh plays right away, you still are going to need, let's be really honest, the wide receiver talent we have right now isn't cutting the mustard. You can't always rely on run. You can't always rely on defense. A lot of those players are about to leave. So, yeah, definitely would like to see more of that. Lars, it's a very interesting situation. It's not very often that a ranked team is the dog. In this situation, they are. Washington is favored by 2.5. The game is Saturday the 5th at 7:30 Eastern on NBC. So I want to ask you, kind of starting off, is what do you think the factors are behind kind of Washington being favored in this game right now? Aside from obviously it's at your stadium. Michigan's finally traveling.
Yeah, I mean, you get 3 points for being at home, so that maybe is it. But to me, I look at these two teams, and I was kind of as surprised as you were when you opened that question by where I looked at FanDuel over on Sunday, and it was a 2.5-point favorite, and I'm thinking to myself, they're about to get some bad news on Monday, which they did, which Javon Parker, their junior D tackle from Detroit, Michigan, Fordham High School, is out for the season with a torn Achilles. His brother Armon was already out for the season with another injury. And so, to me, you lose a significant starter in the middle of your defensive line, who had graded out as, I think, 85 against the run according to PFF, which is the best run defender you'd have had. He's now gone. And the guys that you have behind him, you have a redshirt freshman. I mean, for me, to answer your question directly, I don't know what it is. I mean, unless it's strictly Husky Stadium, to me, this is a pick 'em game, which is still surprising because Michigan's undefeated, a top 10 team. Yeah, you don't have a quarterback or any wide receivers, but you do have a pretty good run game and a pretty darn good defense. A pretty darn good run defense, especially. And, when I look at Washington, I think, yeah, you have Jonah Coleman, who ran for a season-high 143 against Rutgers, couldn't find the end zone. So, to me, this is an easy betting game. If I'm a Michigan fan, if I'm even a Washington fan, I'm probably saying, you know what? Give me Michigan, just for the sake of the money. If you throw $10, $100 on it, this is a game. First of all, the safest bet here is the under. And I said it against Washington Rutgers, and I will say it again. I will die on this vine after the Apple Cup because I thought Washington would actually, get above 30 points in the Apple Cup, and they couldn't get above 20. So this is an offense that, until proven otherwise, take the under every time.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is the play of Will Rogers. I think Will Rogers has actually played really well for you guys. He's actually exceeded my expectations considering last year, at Mississippi State, he was in like the high 50s, low 60s in completion percentage. Right now he's at, I was actually just looking at it. Yeah, he's at 74% with almost 150 attempts, 10 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. So he's playing very, very good football, ball security. I think your offense is what is probably giving these bettors some pause for Michigan because, Michigan's offense, as we saw against Minnesota, started to really fizzle out, right? So it's an interesting matchup. I think, another thing too is you have a few weapons on offense, right? Like you've already hit on Jonah Coleman, who's actually having a really good year, 7.2 average. You have two wide receivers who are, above 400 right now. One of them already has 7 touchdowns on the season, which is a hell of a year. And his name is Denzel Boston. No relation to David Boston, I think. But and then our old friend, Giles Jackson. Giles, well, we miss him right now, don't we, John? Giles Jackson, 34 receptions, 401 yards. He's playing pretty well. What's your thoughts on your weapons for the offense and especially can you hit on Giles Jackson because I know some of the fan base remember him.
Yeah, former Michigan man himself. Giles has been a trooper because he was a guy that I don't know if you guys knew last season he had to redshirt because he had I think a broken thumb or some sort of injury, but basically he took one for the team because you had Roma Dunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Polk last season who were going to get the targets. There was no room for Giles. And Ryan Grubb basically said, like, hey, if you redshirt this season, you can still play in the somehow. I still don't know how this makes sense. You can play in the Pac-12 championship and the bowl games, and they don't count against your eligibility for next season. You just have to play in 4 regular season games and you're good. So that's how he's back this season. And Giles was a guy to me where I thought he would have killed it last season. Jed's offense, he does great because he really can line up anywhere across the field. And I'm sure you guys saw he broke Larry Fitzgerald's record for most consecutive targets to catches. He had old record was 18 for 18. Apparently he finished 24 for 24 going into the Northwestern game, missed a target on the first one, so that streak ended. But he's still been killing it. The problem that I have, and you'll never get me to be a Washington homer because I went to Washington State. I do not understand Jedd Fisch's play calling philosophy sometimes. And it's specifically in the red zone, where Giles had, I think, 3 or 4 targets in the red zone, 2 of which were the same play, a short out, basically like a 2-yard up and out to the far side of the field, which isn't his strength, especially when you mentioned Will Rogers. Will's a great quarterback. I love Will. But his arm strength is not a strength. He doesn't have the Michael Penix, I can get it to you in a half a second on the far hash and thread a needle. Will is more of the I can get you the ball in a specific place, 25, 30 yards down the field, which is where Denzel comes into play. And Denzel is a guy similar to Giles last season, where if you take out Rome, one of those 3 receivers, he's having 6, 7 touchdowns, 5, 6, 700 yards. He was going to be a guy. Jamarcus Shepard loved him last season. And so coming into this season, I thought he was going to lead the team in receptions based on every category, and he's done that. The other side of that equation is just the play calling. I haven't seen, you didn't, the one guy you didn't mention, and rightfully so, but who I would have thought at this point in the season you would have, is Jeremiah Hunter, the receiver from Cal, who came to Washington after having no quarterback play at Cal the past 3 years. None. When Jake Plummer was his best quarterback at Cal. Put that into context. You get Will Rogers, and his best game was this past weekend, 5 for 50 against Rutgers. And that was intentionally not targeting Giles and Denzel. So whatever reason Jedd can't figure out how to get these guys the ball, that's got to change this weekend, because, again, you have a defense who's good against the run, back third against the pass. If there's a weekend to do it, it's this weekend. Now, shout out Will Johnson. He's going to take away one of those guys, but
yeah, he's going to take away a decent chunk of the field. Yeah, I this is very fascinating for a lot of reasons. One, this is the first regular season rematch of a previous season national championship game since Bama LSU 2012. So this doesn't happen very often, number one. Very exciting for that reason. Both teams have new coaches. Both teams have a lot of new coaching staff, personnel. The entire offense basically is different. And on both sides, really. So it's almost like you're playing. Even though it is technically a rematch, it's very much a new match in a lot of ways because of how different the teams are this year. But with Jedd Fisch, that also fascinates me. So as you remember, Jedd Fisch was a member of Michigan's offensive staff in 15 and 16, and I believe that he performs best in a unit of offensive coordinating and play calling versus being the play caller, because I actually believe he did very well in 15 and 16. And the reason is because when he left in 2017, and we had Tim Drevno and Pep Hamilton, you can watch an Amazon documentary about that called All or Nothing. And spoiler alert, it was nothing, because the offense was like, what is happening here? And so the difference in schematically and the difference in approach, Jedd Fisch is good in a unit, but it sounds like solo, when when it's his vision, it leaves something to be desired.
It does. And I said this on our Lockdown Huskies show. I talked to Yogi Roth and a few others. I talked to PJ Fleck at Big Ten Media. I got to stop saying Pac-12. Big Ten Media Day this past July. And they all said to a man, he's like the smartest guy in the room. He's the guy that, has all the answers. And I'm like, that's never a good sign, because that means there's nobody that's going to check him. And it's kind of the question that I have coming into this game, and what I posed after the Rutgers game, which was, who can check Jedd in that building? I don't think anybody can. I know Brennan and him go back a long way. Brennan Carroll, the offensive coordinator, go back a long ways. Jimmy Doherty, the same sort of situation. But you look at, and I doubt you guys have seen it, but maybe I've read about it, the Apple Cup play where, ironically, he admitted after the game to me he wanted the original play before the timeout was to go to Giles Jackson on the 3-yard line or the 2-yard line. Instead, they ended up running speed option into the boundary to the short side of the field. And
I hate speed option. It's like my least favorite plays is in speed option.
Of all the plays in the playbook, that's the one they went to, and he's like, this is our gotta have it play. And when he said it's our gotta have it play, I'm like, hey, you were never gonna have that play then. Like, you were just flat out never gonna have it. And so to your point, this is where I get kind of terrified in this game, is the Wink Martindale versus Jedd Fisch, situation.
Yeah.
Where, like, to me, And again, I don't hate Jed. I'm not a Barry Jed kind of guy. I was a big fan of Kalen. I knew he was going to kill it at Bama, and so I'm willing to give coaches the benefit of the doubt.
Sure. I thought he was your best chance. I thought he was the best option for you guys. So I was in full support when DeBoer decided to go off to the Alabama Crimson Tide.
He was, because I think Indiana already made their coaching hire at that point. I could be wrong in that, but I'm pretty sure Stagnetti was already in Bloomington at that point.
I think you're right.
And so to your point, when you make the hire, you didn't really have a lot of options to go from. And so Jed was absolutely the right hire, and he's done a great job on the recruiting trail. And, the top 20, they're getting 4-star guys left and right. If you want to make this a game, whoever winner gets Andrew Marsh, I'd be down for that. But, aside from that, I know Kevin Cummings would be down for that.
We're already, we got him.
I was gonna say. But that's what terrifies me, because Jed's proven that he doesn't really have a true identity of an offense. I asked him what the identity of the offense is, and he threw out, we're this and big plays, we're this and wrong, we're this and this, that, we're this. And I'm like, I can look up numbers too, my guy. I'm asking you, what is your identity? And you're not giving me anything. That's the problem that I think. Whereas if you ask Wayne Barton, what's the identity of your Michigan defense? Stop the run, solid outside play, could get better, but there's at least an identity that you could quickly go towards. And even if you're Michigan's offense, we don't have a great quarterback, but we got 2 really good running backs, really good offensive line. There's something you can point to where it's something to run instead of the past. And Jed he's got about 20 different cooks in the fire right now, trying to bring along Damon Williams as a true freshman while getting Will Rogers his playing time. And everything is working and everything is not working at the same time.
In case you're just joining us, we've got Lars Hanson from Locked On Huskies helping us preview the upcoming national championship rematch, Michigan at Washington, with Washington favored by 2.5. Loki here is doing a nice lead-in to start talking the opposite, which would be your defense against Michigan's offense. Detective Loki with the 2. He's also standing with Alex Orji, saying Orji with the football is like Da Vinci with a brush. So
that's art.
Wow. Look, we earlier in the show we said let's cool it on the Jalen Milroe comparisons, because I think Orji seems a bit more of a game manager type, and at least isn't like getting 3 picks a game, and there's a manageability of the game and a kind of even keeled that way. But let me ask you this, when you look at it from the other side of the coin and you look at Michigan's kind of up and down offense and some of the struggles, who do you think on Washington's defense is going to really play a role in really, if Washington were to win or do very well, who would need to really step up?
So I'll give you one player at 3 levels. The defensive line, Sebastian Valdez. As I mentioned, Javon Parker's out, so he's the Montana State transfer coming in. He's been a disruptor. He's been a big guy. They call him Seabass. I don't understand the nickname just because your name is Sebastian doesn't mean that actually connects. But he's been a significant disruptor, whether it's the run or the pass game. To me, I think he's a guy that you're going to see, no pun intended, you're going to see him somehow, because you can't miss him on the field. And he hasn't really been slowed down consistently in a game. Rutgers did a decent job a little bit. Northwestern did a decent job a little bit. Wazoo, same sort of thing. But he's a guy who's going to have to find a way to disrupt the offense one way, shape, or form up the middle of that line. Secondly is going to be Alfonso Chiputala. And I say that with respect to Carson Bruner, because I'm sure Michigan fans will say, how are you not picking Carson Bruner if you're picking a linebacker? Whatever Steve Belichick, and I've still been working on it, whatever Steve Belichick did to Alfonso Chiputala, I think I would love to know what that was, because he has revolutionized him from what he was last season. It's a guy who met his first pick 6, drops the ball at the 1.5-yard line, had an Achilles injury as well in his career, and he's really been, I think, the MVP of this defense. If you were to a man ask a player, hey, who's been the most impactful guy, because he's the green dot, believe it or not, he's the green dot. So he's the guy setting up the Washington defense with Carson Bruner. And on the back end, this name might surprise you a little bit. You guys might recognize this name, Cam Broussard, the Sacramento State transfer at safety. He's another guy who he was about 3 yards, and we make our prediction on Fridays on Locked On Huskies about bold predictions. And I said he was going to have his first interception or his first turnover. He was about 3 yards combined between having 2 picks in that game. So I think Cam's a guy who's been really coming along. He's good in the run. Obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen when you watch the tape, Steve loves to walk those safeties down, so he's going to be like a third linebacker in a sense. So those would be 3 guys I would pick.
Yeah, I remember.
Real quick, I just want to point this out because you kind of sped past it a little bit. That's the Steve Belichick, who's the defensive coordinator. Yes, Bill Belichick's son, famously on the staff of the Patriots. So just in case you're like, wait a minute. Yes, it's that one. Sorry, go ahead, TJ.
Well, I was going to say Cam Broussard, I think the reason why he's highlighting him is because he was somebody Michigan was interested in the portal. Very good, dynamic, physical player. So when I was looking at Washington's defense, one of the things that stuck out to me is you guys are actually the second best passing defense in the Big Ten. Now, obviously, that's not good for us considering our limitations in the passing game. So do you think that's an area that Washington can exploit against Michigan? Do you think they can shut down, make us even more one-dimensional than we already are and just focus us on the run? And then if they do that, do you have confidence in Washington's defense to shut us down? Because when I look at your run defense, you guys are, I would say, ranked around 10th in the Big Ten. So what's your take on that?
I mean, if this becomes a passing game, then yeah, I absolutely understand why Washington favored by 2.5. I mean, if the debate's Will Rogers versus Alex Orji, I think you take that one in a heartbeat if you're Washington. You know, and that's no offense to Alex, but I think
you're right. No,
100%. I just got to call a spade a spade.
I think we agree with you there. Yeah.
But what, as you mentioned, fears me is Donovan Edwards and the other running back you guys have. Names escape me.
Khalil Mullings.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, you have a good run defense in Washington, but without Javon Parker, Kamori House has been a redshirt freshman who, I'll give him credit, has come along and come a long ways. I just don't know. I mean, we saw it in the national championship. Like if this is going to be a rematch, it's going to be one on the ground. And I don't know if I'm Washington, if I can consistently stop them on the ground for 4 quarters. The beautiful part about that is it limits possession. And draw out those drives. Washington is getting off the field sometimes. And you'll have some of those drives where, wow, it's a 5-minute drive when really probably 3 or 2-minute drive. And so that could work both in Washington's favor and against. I just don't. If it becomes one-dimensional, I mean, honestly, I think I agree with the principle of like, hey, it'd be great if Washington could force Michigan to throw the ball, but I just don't envision a world where that becomes a thing. I mean, if anything, Michigan might try and throw it a little bit more to balance out have a 50-50 balance. But, as I talked to Donovan Edwards at Big Ten Media, then he's like, he was the one that ended up actually getting the first 2 touchdowns in the national championship. And he really seemed like a kind of guy where it's like, oh, no, the offense really revolves around your guys' run game. And whatever the quarterback happens to do, so be it. And to me, that worried me more than potentially forcing Alex Orji into a passing game. I just – that's what Rutgers was supposed to become, in a sense, with Kyle Monungai and Samuel Brown. And yet, even AA still managed to find a way to carve up a few first downs, get the drives going, and then the run game took it over. And so if you're Michigan, and if you're asking for a plan of attack, I would just say rinse and repeat what Rutgers' game plan was because it worked. And until Washington can actually prove on offense that it can hang, all you have to do as a defense – basically, Steve Belichick's job is to keep everybody under 21 points. The problem is Jed can't even get to 20. So if Wink Martindale can keep him under 20, that's why the perfect over-under for this game is 40.5, I would still take the under.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair analysis there. And I think you're right. I think the blueprint that Rutgers had is the blueprint Michigan needs to take. I mean, Kalakamanis, the quarterback for Rutgers, only had 115 yards. Now we're still hoping Orji can get past the century mark on yards one day. But in terms of running the ball, 132 yards by Manangi, and then Brown had 44. That's your Edwards-Mullins duo there. So, and they didn't have a receiver get more than 40 yards in that game. So that's a recipe for Michigan. So we'll see. I mean, I think you're right though, Lars. I think you have the blueprint of what Michigan needs to do. Let me ask you this: how was Washington's adjustments at the second half? Did they win the battle or lose the battle? I mean, obviously they lost the game, but do you think they made the right adjustments in the second half?
Defensively, yes. The struggles still persist with the red zone scoring. That, if you want to see where this game lives and dies, it's the red zone scoring. Washington is 117th in the country in red zone efficiency. And of those, I think they have 9 touchdowns and 4 field goals. And I will not roast Grady Gross because of what he did last season. But again, if Grady kicks 2 of those 3 field goals 3 yards to the right, they win that game against Rutgers. I don't necessarily think it's going to be another field goal game against Michigan. But the defense certainly made Steve made the adjustments. I'll give him credit for that. The one area where I haven't seen the adjustments come into play is the red zone. And so that really is, if we're looking for a place to find where Washington can improve from last week or the last couple weeks to this week, I mean, first of all, get into the red zone. That's the first struggle against the Wink Martindale defense. And then once you're there, don't settle for field goals. Jed's an interesting cat. Jed is really an interesting cat because he went for 4th down, I think, from the Rutgers 37 on the first drive of the game. Will overshoots Denzel by about 3.5 country miles. Give up that one. Okay. You kick the field goal from the 22 on the next drive to get yourself some points. And then I think they had a touchdown on the following drive after that. Then they didn't score again. My thing was, if Grady's going to kick the 22, why not take those points off the board? Take those 3 off the board, give yourself 4 more, and run it with Jonah. Didn't do it. And there's just so many head-scratching, perplexing decisions that Jed has had this season, which, again, I look at Vegas and I'm like, whatever you guys do, however much you bet on this game, feel comfortable with your bet, folks. That's all I will say. Like, if you can't afford to lose X, don't bet X. That's all I will say, unless you're gonna pick the under, because that's the safest bet in this game.
Yeah, and we are getting into keys to the game now, and so you're thinking, when we're thinking of keys to the game, one thing I would like to point out, it may be a slightly hot take, that I actually believe that in one aspect, your offense is slightly more 2 or 3 dimensional than in the Natty. And the reason is because your running back, Jonah Coleman, right, 521 yards, 72 carries, is healthy. So in the national championship game, where you did have 3 of maybe some of the best wide receivers that played and one of the best quarterbacks that played, the run game was almost non-existent because your running back was running at, let's be real, like 50%, if that. So it allowed Jesse Minner to scheme for the pass. It allowed him to drop back. It allowed him to make Michael Penix have to worry. And he was off his game, and he's almost never off his game, right? And would that have happened to the same degree if the run game was there? Maybe not. And so in this game, yes, your offense looks wildly different, but at least in one aspect, you're going to have more for the defense and for Wink to think about. So would you say that if the offense is balanced in that way between the run and the pass, could that be a key to Washington winning?
Absolutely. What's the one area of the game that I was expecting Washington to go towards more, which is the check down, the Jonah Coleman out of the backfield, 2 running back sets. Cam Davis goes one way, the backup running back, Jonah Coleman, goes the other way. Both significant pass catchers. They could easily catch the ball, and I would throw Adam Muhammad a true freshman running back. Similar, it's kind of what Tybo was last season, although much different people, much different situation, much all that. But you have at least a freshman like will play in this game as well. I just had to clarify that because anytime you bring up Tybo, got to clarify. With that being said, there's the interesting thing about, I'm glad you made that comparison, was Ryan Grubb did not really make any changes in the second half in that national championship. There wasn't anything that we saw from week 11 to then, which he had been doing. And so I'm curious if Jed can make those adjustments because all the weapons are there. Giles is the guy who's 0 to 15 yards, kind of been that yards after catch guy. Denzel is their shot play guy. Jeremiah is there. I don't know what guy. And then you have Kaleki Latu and Decker DeGraff, 2 tight ends who have found, Decker's been probably the better of the two, if I'm being honest, as a true freshman. But I think he's only had 3 or 4 catches, 2 of which have gone for touchdowns. So, he's a touchdown machine in that respect. But to me, if Jed can open up more of the playbook, and this is something we talked on Locked On Huskies about, which was, I don't know why you haven't been using the full playbook if that's the case, but it really seems like this offense has been with one hand tied behind his back. And it's not because of Will, and it's not because of Jonah. I think it's truly because of Jed. And I don't know why that's the case. But if we see more of the playbook, I think there's actually a chance where Washington could do some damage against Michigan. And that's saying something, knowing how good Wink Martindale's defense can be.
Okay. So I'll give my keys to the game here. So my keys to the game that I think for Michigan is I think Michigan has to get pressure on the quarterback, sustained pressure, not just one guy making all the plays. I think we need to make Will Howard uncomfortable. I think we need to try to get him to not to create turnovers. He has not thrown a pick this year. I'd like this game to be the game that changes that. So I'd like to see continued pressure, and hopefully he makes a mistake to either Jair Hill or one of our safeties, Will Johnson. We all know what he can do. The other one is we have to run the ball. I agree with Lars here. I think running the ball is how we're going to establish our win here. And when I mean run the ball, of course, obviously, but I mean we have to make it so Washington cannot stop us running the ball. Where, for example, Minnesota started loading the box, and it started getting very hard to get a first down. It started getting very hard to score points. We have to make it so we stay ahead of the chains and we continue to run the ball down their throat. I have confidence we can do that. And then the turnover battle, I think, is how we win the game. I think this is going to be a close game. We'll give our score predictions after the keys of the game, but I think if we can win the turnover battle, similar to USC, then we will come away with a good result.
I'll give some for each team. Washington, obviously, it's at Husky Stadium. It's at your house, so that's a huge factor, right? That's number one. Number two, like you said, if Jed Fish can make the adjustments needed, but more than anything else, if they can rely on a balanced attack. Because Washington's defense, let's be real, they don't need to be world beaters to slow down the Michigan passing game. The Michigan run game, that's another story. And does the trench play hold up? We're about to get there. Because Michigan's keys, I think it's trench play. I think it's winning up front. What we've seen is that now USC did hold up to a decent extent, but what we've seen from the Pac-12 teams now joining the Big Ten is a trench issue, right? And we kind of saw that coming in, that there would be a little bit of a physicality thing going on. We're seeing that a little bit, and I think that for Michigan to win, it has to be there, right? The run game needs to be there. I would like to see Donovan Edwards, Kalel Mullings in the backfield, Alex Orji, maybe there's a pistol concept, shotgun, whatever. Have one of them go out pre-snap motion, or have one of them go in as a blocker, or out in the slot maybe, or out for a 3-yarder on the right. And you keep the defense guessing that way, because Orji will have Colston Loveland. He will have Marlon Klein. He will have some receiving weapons. If Samaj Morgan's back, Samaj was getting separation at times against USC. So I think that if the run is creative and forces Washington's defense to factor in, then it does open up the pass a little. Colston Loveland, 6'5", gets that separation, and you have yourself maybe. I think I'd like to see Orji hit 100, maybe even 150. Somebody predicted 155 in the chat. That would be great. I'd love 100 pass yards. And let's get more in the run game, because that will really open things up. And then, of course, Will Johnson being back changes the whole thing, right? Will Johnson, half the field, you're not throwing to. Like, Jed Fish is not going to throw the ball, because I know he's smart. I know play calling, you're kind of questioning a little bit, which I get, and you laid out a good case, but I think he's smart enough to know not to throw to Will Johnson. And so he's going to need to really, he changes the whole thing for the defense. Josiah Stewart, if he's back, provides that pressure. And it's just I think it's just kind of a mismatch in physicality that wins the game for Michigan, for Keys there. And with all that said, we're on to predictions. So we always start with our guest on predictions. And so, Lars, what do you think is going to happen at your house or at Washington's house? Because I know you said you are Washington State. But what do you think is going to happen in this one, Lars?
So, as always, my predictions are always on the money. Never a question about that. But I will say I'm going to stick with my consistent under, and I'd probably go 2014, 2017 Michigan. I just don't think this game gets above 40.
24-17?
No, 2014. 20 Michigan, 14
20 to
Washington.
14.
Yeah,
Okay.
or 20 to 17. I haven't decided if Washington gets within 3 or not, but I don't think this game gets this offense, it just doesn't seem like there's going to be a ton of scoring in this game, where if Michigan actually does try to commit to the pass, they're going to have longer drives. Washington might try and draw it out. I would love to see this game get into the 30s. I don't see a route where this game gets in the 30s, especially if you have 2 really good running backs and this turns into a running back battle. Those games never end in 28, 35, 42. It's always in the 20s. And so I can see maybe the over hits if both running backs get going, but I would give them edge to Michigan, go 2014.
Okay. DJ?
All right. So you guys heard it here. Lars is predicting a Michigan victory. Appreciate that, Lars. I know the fan base loves to hear it, especially because you cover the team. So if anyone knows, you know. So we appreciate that. My prediction is Michigan 24, Washington 17.
I like it.
Not bad. I'm going to go Michigan 21, Washington 10. So that's just kind of the vibe right now. Moose is a little higher scoring than me. Moose is saying it's going to be 58. So Moose, you better bet that over then if you're thinking it's going to be 58 points. For sure. We've got one score, national championship score. We've got, yes, thank you everybody for giving your predictions. And Scumbag Steve, low scoring. This is true Big Ten right here. 17-14 Michigan from Scumbag Steve. So we do appreciate everybody giving the predictions here. Lars, you didn't have to come on. You did. You took some time out of your night to stop by Michigan Wolverines Live. I want to thank you. I want to give you the opportunity for a final thought, and then where can people find you on the internet?
Absolutely. Well, hey, first of all, I appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate you doing everything behind the scenes. Like I said last night, it just makes my life a little bit easier. And as you know, I can kind of be a little hard to reach. So appreciate you guys having me on. Great show. You can find any of my work. Basically, just type in Athlon Sports Lars Hanson. Seems to be the easiest way where you can do that. It's Inside the Huskies for the Washington site, all Seahawks. I also cover the Seahawks for Athlon. So you kind of check out both those things. And then Lockdown Huskies, pretty much anywhere YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify. As Roman always says, Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcast, just type in Lockdown Huskies and it should be the first one that pops up there. And that's where all of our podcasts go. And yeah, I will say this game is probably 5 years in the making, because you guys were supposed to come out for the home and home that you never ended up coming out for and dodge that bullet in the COVID year. Shout out to you guys for that. But no, it kind of worked out well where it's a national championship rematch that isn't. And I'm a little disappointed it's not Harbaugh versus Fish, but
yeah, that would be a great story.
Oh, you're disappointed, huh? We're disappointed. We would have loved that. But yeah, it should be a good game. Should be fun. It's I have 2 questions for you to get out of here, Lars. My first question is, what is your thoughts on the new teams in the Big Ten, the transition to the Big Ten? What are you noticing in the style of play? We've seen USC, what they're going through. We see Washington against Rutgers. Like, what's your thoughts on the new additions and the acclimation of the Pac-12 teams to the Big Ten?
So I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because when you mentioned USC, I will say it's a great point that you made. But USC's defense last season was the kind of, the bully that everyone picked on in the Pac-12. I mean, I think Wazoo ran for even 300 against them. And, Washington was the one that finally put Alex Grinch out of his misery. And there's that whole Bear Alexander. But I will say there is a correlation between, I would say, Oregon came in the most prepared in the trenches, without question. Oregon came in the most prepared to make that move to the Big Ten. Washington and USC are kind of right there in that 2-3 slot, depending on pick your position, which one USC and Washington have a strength at. And then there's UCLA down here.
Yeah, UCLA is like an island on its own.
Right down here. But so and again, respect to Deshaun Foster. I hope, as an alum, as a UCLA, that he's able to get that thing going. I don't know if he will, but they've always kind of been the ugly stepchild in that town anyways, in that regard. But the travel, I've noticed, Washington, Jed Fish has kind of decided based on his NFL ties and stuff like that if the game kicks off, I think after 4 p.m., that they're going out 1 day ahead. If it's before, they're going out 2 days ahead. So like for Iowa and Penn State, they're going out 2 days ahead. Some of these other games are only going 1 day out. So there's an interesting bit of logistical battle with it that each team is having. But at the same point, I think that Washington knew what they were getting into, similar to Oregon. I think USC was kind of just in the middle road in that, and UCLA just along for the ride. So, of those schools, I would probably say Oregon is way far and above the most prepared.
Fair enough. All right. So my next question is, what's your thoughts on the Monday Night Football game?
Last night?
Yeah. Lions Seahawks, man.
I mean, that was I applaud DK for the effort and that sort of thing, but there was, until they get a couple more running games going, that the offense is going to try. I do love Ryan Grubb being in the NFL. I think he's going to crush it with the Seahawks. Geno is what he is. Again, here's the problem.
You're good.
Yes, but here's the thing: is he going to win you a Super Bowl in Seattle? Do you think watching Geno
last ceiling? Night, I see what you're saying. He's got a ceiling.
And as much as I love Geno, I'm a Geno supporter, so I believe that. The problem is you're going to get the 9 or 10 wins. Does that get you in the playoffs? If it does, how far can you get in the playoffs? If Geno can get you to a, let's say, NFC Championship appearance, great. You know what? Cool. I'll take that. But if that isn't the case, and we're 9-8, 10-7, whatever you want to call it, Geno's a great bridge. Sam Howell's not the guy. No. But then again, there's no quarterback in this draft that I've truly seen that's the guy. I like Drew Allaire, but much to be desired there at the same point. So it's an interesting kind of middle ground right now. But I don't know. I thought, I knew Detroit probably was going to win that game, but they at least put up a fight, kept fighting until the end. And you take away DK's turnover that turned into 7, and you take away couple of other plays. I thought it was a good game. Again, Detroit going into Detroit probably going to lose that game, but and you're also talking about missing Byron Murphy. There's a few other, Leonard Williams was out, so there's a few guys who, it kind of was.
I think if Geno plays like he did last night, you guys could win. You guys can make a really good playoff run. I think you guys are a playoff team. I think you need to get healthy. I think the Lions are just really good, and honestly, that fumble by DK is what gave us the gap we needed, because you guys kept chasing points after that. So, good game, but I just wanted to kind of rub it in a little bit because it was, I have to, man.
No, I respect it, but that's the other thing is it's like, that game, and that's why I hear Mike McDonald afterwards. He's like, "Oh, we're never gonna fault guys for not going to town." I'm like, I'm gonna clip that quote and talk to you in 5 weeks when you say, "Oh, he should have just gone down, just take the sack, take the whatever, just live to fight another down." I mean, you can fight for extra yards, but there was no reason to fight for those. What would he have got, a half a yard at the 45 or the 35, whatever? It wasn't like you're fighting towards the goal line here. Like that to me is where Mike. Again, we're talking about coaching. Mike McDonald's a complete, he's savant, but also, hardo and all those other things where he's a great football guy, a high football mind. But sometimes you kind of need somebody else whispering, "Hey, just tell DK, just take the game and go down. Just take the, just live, make sure we don't give up the ball in that situation." Because as you mentioned, there you go. Right there. There's your 14-point swing and you're chasing it for the rest of the game. And, short of forcing Detroit into multiple turnovers, you're going to catch up.
Yeah, and golf was perfect, so that was not happening. So, but yeah, no, that fun game, and we'll see Saturday. how it goes, and hopefully Michigan can get another victory, for a Washington team. We'll see how it goes. But Lars, I want to thank you for coming on and joining me and John. We do appreciate it, man. Like, you didn't have to do it, you did it. We appreciate that. You brought a lot of good insight. And yeah, man. So I guess until next time.
For sure, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, Lars.
Thanks, Lars. Okay, so that was Lars, and we do want to encourage everybody to give him a follow on Twix at Lars Hanson. The link is in the chat, and Jackson also put all of his other socials in there. So let's always support when we have a guest who gives their time to not just talk about the college team, but also spend some time on the Seahawks. So why not throw in a bonus there? TJ, we've got a super chat that I want to make sure we get to from Minnesota Dave. Just dropped a 20 and said, "So glad that I went to the Chippewa game. My dad had a very good 75th birthday at his alma mater. The Minnesota-Michigan game was a lot closer than I thought it would be, but you can't give Michigan 14 points on turnovers." Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, the game was close. I'm glad your dad enjoyed his birthday. We appreciate, the super chat here, Minnesota Dave. Definitely means a lot to us. But yeah, I mean, Central Michigan, it's, always a strong group of 5 school. I mean, typically. So, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. You missed a hell of a Michigan game, though. I'll tell you that. Minnesota made it a tough one for us, Dave.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. That was the one positive thought that I had when Michigan was starting to let it slip away was, well, at least Minnesota Dave will be happy to see this. So that was the only thing.
Positive.
That was literally the only positive I could think of at the time. Was that our boy Minnesota Dave would be all right with it. Another 2 here. Here we go. Don't get me started on the referees.
Dave, I don't know what you're talking about. I think the referees were excellent. I think they are certified ball knowers. They definitely knew what they were doing the whole game. Great call at the end too, by the way. Smart, excellent eyes by the referee.
Yeah, sometimes it's you got to have those eagle eyes when you're officiating. There is an argument that if they didn't call that, though, there would be some illegal touching.
Yes, and there was.
So that might have gotten called either way, but yeah, no, look, Michigan has had a couple pretty major calls go against the team in the last decade. So I think a couple going Michigan's way isn't the worst thing in the world sometimes.
No.
Well, we do want to encourage everybody to watch all of our content here at the Voice of College Football Network. We'll start with Mark Rogers. So here's what happens. Mark Rogers every Monday through Wednesday does a morning show. It's called the Voice of College Football Show, or the College Football Show with Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football. And so what you do is you put on your pot of coffee, you get your breakfast, get yourself some bacon and eggs or whatever you eat, Pop-Tarts, whatever. And you can watch Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, serve up some college football takes Monday through Wednesday in the morning, and then Thursday and Friday at night. So he does a post-game wrap up. He does a call-in show. Just last week, Will ND and I got together and hung out in person, and we both called into the show. So that was very fun, and I enjoyed doing that. So definitely check out the Voice, the College Football Show with Mark Rogers. And then for our content, so we've got later this week, we got some content for you, including your Thursday call-in show, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, TJ.
Yep. So this Thursday, we will have special guest Michael Smeltzer from Wolverine Chronicle on the X account. If you guys are familiar with Wolverine Chronicle, he'll be joining me this Thursday to talk some football. We're going to obviously talk about the state of the team, his thoughts on the quarterback situation, as well as the current direction of the team, and of course the Washington game. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a great show. Looking forward to it. And then obviously, John, we will be here for the post game. So stay tuned for the post game Saturday. Hopefully we got a good one to celebrate.
Absolutely. And of course, coming up next, and I'll put the link for you in the chat right now, but in about 20 or so minutes, Trojan Conquest Live over on the USC channel here at the Voice of College Football, and they will be giving their takes on what just happened and what will happen coming up here. They're going to talk about Minnesota week. So we played Minnesota, and now they're playing Minnesota. So learn about that. Support our other channels here at the Voice of College Football. And now your turn for a final thought and anything you want to say as we wrap up, and your socials and all that good stuff.
Yeah, final thought is, let's see what the team can do against Washington. I do expect another step of improvement. I think we saw some of it in the first half against Minnesota. I think the team will actually get better. I think there's a lot of positives to be had. I think we need to just stay patient at this time. I know there's a lot of angst in the fan base with the current results, but I think if the boys just keep working at it, thankfully, we have Washington right now. I think this is going to be a good game for us, another tune-up for us to find ourselves. So let's see what they do. Hopefully it's the outcome we're looking for, and the team looks even more gelled. So just, stay course and stay patient with the team right now. Quarterback situation is what it is, though. I don't have any answers for you guys there. We're in it on that one. So just stay strong. We'll get through it. And then you can find me at TJ_Ronin at Twitter. Get at me on there. I'm like 6 away from 1,000 followers. So if you guys want to get me there, that'd be great. Looking forward to that. But other than that, John, just another great show with you. Appreciate it, my friend. Always enjoy doing it. And thank you to everyone who contributed to the show today. We appreciate you, Minnesota Dave, Detective Loki, and others. I don't want to miss anybody. So shout out to everybody. Shout out to our boy Moose. Shout out to everyone else. And Burks, what the hell are you doing with your life, bro? You're a Red Sox fan? What are we doing here, bro? You're a Michigan fan. You're a Packer fan. Come on, man. I mean, I appreciate the Michigan fan, but we got to work on this Lions, Red Wings, Pistons thing, bro. We'll get you there, bro. We'll get you there.
Well, TJ, I will see you Saturday for the post game, and I'll be rooting you on Thursday night as always for the call-in show.
Thank you, John. Go Blue, my friends.
All right, go Blue there. And then my name's John Diadamo, and I was your host, and you can follow me on Twix. And I don't do this often enough, and I should, but here is and I messed it up too. So go ahead and follow me on Twix as well. And yes, thank you so Jackson is working on his birthday week and is reminding people that TJ is 5 follows away from 1,000 followers. Let's get him there, folks. Let's do it right now. Let's get there right now. Here's the link. Go ahead. Let's get TJ to 1,000 followers right now. Hit that link. Let's get him there. Next show, as we talked about, is Thursday night with TJ. And then coming up next, Trojan Conquest Live on the USC channel here at the Voice of College Football. And until the next time, this is John Diadamo saying, go Blue. And we're going to end things with a message from Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, on how you can get in on some betting action.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.